What's up, guys? Chasing Lamely here, welcoming you to episode number 2 of Global Pro Wrestling. And without any further ado, his first impressions. We open with Shane McMahon in the ring. After last night's events, I wanted to come out here and clear the air on a few things. First of all, I'm pleased to be able to say that Carl Fredericks has been medically cleared to compete tonight and will team with Oliver Carter in tonight's Men's World Tag Team title match. However, I want to make it clear to Adam Scherr and the rest of the locker room that behaviour such as we witnessed last night is completely unacceptable. We have a sporting code in GPW, and it's my expectation that our competitors attempt to win the match, not injure their opponents. Unfortunately, I also have the sad task of informing you all that Daria Berenato and Valentina Reese have sustained concussions and are not medically cleared to compete. As they were scheduled to compete for the Women's World Tag Team titles, I'll be making this up to them by stating them as the presumptive number one contenders once they recover. As a result, tonight's Women's World Tag Team title ladder match will be between the teams of Casey Catanzaro and Lacey Lane, Shotzi Blackheart and Jamara Garrett, Courtney Stewart and Bea Priestley, and Priscilla Kelly and Elena Black, who I'm told will be henceforth known as Fatal Attraction. As for the attackers, whoever they may be, I want to make one thing clear. The GPW management team are investigating, and I'm confident that those responsible will be identified by the end of the night and punished in due course. I am pleased to report that despite sustaining minor injuries in the attack, Shayna Baszler has been medically cleared to compete for the Women's World Championship tonight, and she's informed me that she wishes to do so. With that being said, tonight, 60 men and women will have an opportunity to qualify for tonight's world title matches, and without any further ado, it's time for the men's first impressions Battle Royal. So for the men's first impressions Battle Royal, all the competitors are named on your screens. The first two men out are Brian Kendrick, followed by Austin Aries. I'll address that afterwards. The key moments in the match, mid-match, we have Dilsha Shanky and Sarav Gurjar finding themselves in the ring together alone. Marco Stunt feeds in and Shanky military presses him, then throws him out into the aisle. Gurjar laughs, grabs Matt Hyson, military presses him and throws him out, and he lands on top of Marco. Then they get taken out by Samurai Del Sol and Cinta de Oro, who eliminate them from the match. Ricklon Stevens ends at number 26 and immediately goes to work on clearing the ring. 27th is Elijah Burke, who pitches in till it's just the two of them, and the commentary team put over that they do have history. Before they can fight, the Amazing Red is in and finds itself pinballed around between them, only dumping out as number 29 makes it to the ring, Heath Miller. The announcers beg him not to go in there, but he puts up a valiant fight and manages to avoid being eliminated until number 30 is in, Babatunde. After some circling, Stevens goes for Miller and Burke is left with Babatunde. Miller and Burke are eliminated in that order, leaving Babatunde and Stevens as the final two. We've got a classic Hoss fight. Eventually, Babatunde hits Stevens with a choke bomb, then hauls him up like he weighs nothing and dumps him out the ring. So our winner of that match is Babatunde. The announcers put over that Babatunde is a monster and that he was the freshest man in the Rumble, so he's probably going to be a really strong contender for the title. Kayla is backstage with Mike Quackenbush ahead of his match with Adam Scherr. She asks how he's feeling ahead of tonight's match, given what his opponent did to Carl Fredericks last night. And he tells us that whilst he was glad to hear that Carl was able to compete tonight, he's not afraid of Adam Scherr. He's faced the biggest and best in the world, and he's not going to back down from this one. He believes he can win this. It'll be a struggle, but he believes he can overcome the odds. Adam Scherr is walking towards Gorilla when he crosses paths with Babatunde coming back from the ring. The two men size each other up for a moment before Scherr sneers at him and says, "Find a monitor, see your future, kid." We then have a match between Mike Quackenbush and Adam Scherr. Scherr's out first, he gets a really decent reaction. Quack's entrance is met by what can best be described as enthusiastic cheers and fearful anticipation. The bell rings and Quack goes to work, firing off fists and kicks. Scherr shrugs them off though, and begins the familiar routine of destroying Quack, again hitting multiple running power slams until the referee is forced to stop the match and EMTs hit the win, with Adam Scherr being the winner once again by stoppage. Kayla is now backstage with Babatunde. She congratulates him on his victory. I just realized I didn't put the text on the screen. I'm sorry about that. She congratulates him on his victory and asks for his thoughts on what they just saw from Adam Scherr. Babatunde tells us that he's sure that Scherr thought it was very impressive, but all he saw was a frustrated bully. He looks straight into the camera and dares Scherr to try doing that to him in the main event. We then have a match between Shinsuke Nakamura and Bishop Dyer, our final qualifying match for the title. I don't know why it's worked out this way in the match engine, because I definitely booked it right. That's gone fun. But we go to the ring for our final match. The bell rings for a hellacious brawl. The announce team put over the fact that both men have a martial arts background and how that makes this a particularly interesting contest. Inside the ring, neither man can best the other, so Dyer takes it to the outside. The referee gives him a lot of leeway on the outside as they end up in the crowd with a bunch of weapons in play, but he does start counting. This is not a Falls Count Anywhere match. Unfortunately, these two men are too engaged in fighting each other to hear him, and the referee, even being lenient, is forced to call it. It's a draw and a double countout, and officials appear to force the two men apart as announcers question what this means for the tournament. Again, I don't know how that's ended up in the match, in the game with Bishop Dyer winning. I thought I booked it right. It's fine. We'll talk about it properly after the show. We're now in the back in the parking lot as EMTs load Quack into an ambulance and Carl Fredericks looks on. Oliver Carter joins him and tells him that he's got to put that out of his mind right now because they've got a title match tonight. We then have the women's first impressions battle royal, and Madison Eagles comes out first and makes a point of waiting dead center in the ring, staring intently at her incoming opponent, Tyler Hendricks. She makes short work of her, out wrestling her and putting her out before the 2-minute mark for the next entry, and this cycle repeats itself for the next 10 entries, who are Alicia, Maya Yuki, Kelly Klein, Charlie Evans, Nicole Matthews, Blue Nikita, Brittany Rain, Debbie Malenko, and Amber Nova. The announcers put over that she's always called herself the master of wrestling, and she's proven it by eliminating 11 women in a single match, one by one. Next out, though, is ODB, who gives her a much tougher fight as the ring starts to fill up, but a lot of the focus is still going to be on Madison for the rest of the match. She gets a couple more eliminations, including ODB and Holidead, before Tenille Dashwood makes her entrance, and the two immediately start fighting. Tenille puts Madison down, the first time she's actually been laid out for more than a few seconds in this match. She bends down over her, and the camera picks her up saying, "Not so easy to beat the people who know you, huh?" Madison kicks her in the face, the two are fighting against the ropes, when Wesner Busic follows and spots an opening and clotheslines them both over the ropes, where officials struggle to separate them to get them away from ringside. Also of note within the match is that Ivelisse Velez and Shaw Guerrero seem to have some kind of understanding, but not enough to stop them both being dumped out by Big Swole. And we're down to just 3 in the ring when number 30 comes out, and it's Angelina Love, Brandy Rhodes, and Allysin Kay in the ring when number 30, Lisa Marie Veron, the former Tara or Victoria, makes her way to the ring. As she comes to the ring, Jerry Lawler tells us that he'd been talking to her backstage and she seemed different, but he couldn't figure out what had changed. Everyone assumed that she was here as a coach, though, not to actually compete. She enters the ring and immediately takes out Allysin Kay, who's been in the match longest of those remaining. Angelina laughs at Allysin and takes a seat in the corner, leaving Brandy to take on Lisa Marie Veron on her own. They go at it and they get a good chunk of time working together as Angelina just watches on. Veron gets the advantage, just trying to deadlift Rhodes out of the ring, but Rhodes holds onto a headlock, grabs the ropes on her way over, and we're down to 2 as Lisa Marie Veron is out and Brandy Rhodes and Angelina Love remain, and the announcers put over that Brandy might become the second Rhodes to finish their story tonight. They get into it, but the end comes when Angelina reverses an Irish whip from Brandy, and Veron grabs the top rope to lowbridge her out of the ring. Angelina Love is going to be the final woman in the 6-way Women's World Title elimination match tonight. Backstage, Shane McMahon is in his office, directly addressing the camera. He's almost presidential. So far tonight, we've seen a lot of action and more questions than answers, and I'd like to begin by offering my congratulations to Angelina Love for her victory tonight. Unfortunately, I was disappointed that the same spirit of competition was missing from some of the competitors vying for our men's world title tonight. Adam Scherr, despite my warnings, chose to risk seriously injuring his opponent rather than trying to win the match fairly. Bishop Dyer and Shinsuke Nakamura failed to follow referees' instructions, and as a result, cheated the fans out of seeing a definitive winner between the two of them in an important match. In trying to handle this situation, I've held conversations with my management team and with Babatunde as the only man to actually win their match within the rules thus far tonight. As a result of these discussions, I have cancelled tonight's triple threat match for the GPW Men's World Tag Team title. The crowd boos at this because they were told they would get a title match. However, in its place will be a fatal four-way match for the men's world title. Babatunde will face Adam Scher, Bishop Blair and Shinsuke Nakamura for the title. This match will have no disqualifications, no countouts, and under absolutely no circumstances is the referee going to be stopping the match. This match will end with a pinfall or submission in the center of the ring, and he's got the crowd back on side. He says, "May the best man win." Kayla has managed to grab Rick Stevens for an interview. He says that he's disappointed to have fallen at the final hurdle, but says that above all else, he's embarrassed, and Big Rick doesn't like being embarrassed. He says that Babatunde had better win the world title tonight because he's going to get his revenge, he's going to fight him again, and if Babatunde leaves at Los Angeles tonight as the champion, he's going to end his title reign. Elsewhere backstage, Saurav Gurjar and Dilsha Shanky have cornered Samurai Del Sol and Cinta de Oro. They're yelling they were embarrassed by them and that they do not accept being embarrassed like that. "Do you know," says Shanky, pinning Samurai Del Sol against the wall, "that Indian men are like lions. When lions have you cornered," as Gurjar grabbing Cinta de Oro, "they will eat you alive." Before things can escalate, Shane McMahon arrives on the scene, says, "Gentlemen, I hope I'm not interrupting anything, but if you'd like to fight, I suggest you do it inside the ring tonight." The two big men drop their now opponents. "We'll be seeing you," says Shanky menacingly. As they walk away, Shane's attention is grabbed by more commotion. The camera follows them as he runs down the hall where he finds Tenille and Madison brawling with agents struggling to separate them. I have no idea why nobody here seems to be able to behave like a professional tonight, but since I'm in the mood to settle things, I suggest the two of you stop fighting, clean yourselves up, because you're going one-on-one tonight. I will not have this chaos in my locker room. Do you understand? And the agents drag them apart in separate directions as they carry on yelling to each other. And then a voice from off camera says, "You look like you could use a drink." He turns around, we see it's ODB. She tosses him a beer. He laughs, toasts her, and says, "You read my mind." We go back to ringside where the coach is in the ring introducing the match. This will be a fatal four-way ladder match for the GPW Men's World Tag Team Championships. The winners will be the first men to climb the ladder and receive the tag team titles. He then hands over to the ring announcer to introduce the teams. The first team out is Cedric Alexander and Fabian Eichner, who enter separately, and the announcers are putting over "This is a bad sign," underscored when Carter and Fredericks enter together. The announcers talk about how quickly they've managed to get on the same page, but they also tell us that neither team knows who else is walking down the aisle for this match. First to come out is Jim Sulmani and Sonny Dinser, the Legion of Pain, accompanied by Paul Ellering. We're reminded by the announcers that these are two very dangerous men and would have been hard to prepare for even with time for two experienced teams, but they tell us Shane McMahon promised the two biggest free agent teams in the industry. And as if that wasn't dangerous enough as a proposition, they're followed down the ramp by Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson, the Good Brothers. The announcers say this probably isn't feeling much of a second chance for the two makeshift teams right now. Match gets underway and it's predictable, it's violent, car crash chaos. Hardware beyond just the ladders gets introduced and the men are battered and bloodied, but ultimately only one team can come out on top. At the end of the match, there are bodies everywhere, nobody is moving. Tables are broken, chairs are scattered around the ring. Out of the rubble, towards the sole ladder left standing, crawl two men, Carl Fredericks and Oliver Carter. As they slowly climb, Paul Ellering tries to rouse his own team to their feet, but they're barely moving. Desperate, he tries to rouse anybody at ringside, but only Cedric Alexander is able to get to his feet, and he does so, sliding in the ring just in time to see Fredericks and Carter pull down the World Tag Team titles, and against the odds, as our announcers will be putting over. And apparently Doc Gallows has picked up an injury, which is helpful. Against the odds, the announcers put over that the Fredericks and Carter have won the tag team titles. Fredericks was in hospital last night and didn't even know who was going to make it, so they have definitely overcome the odds to become the champions. Elsewhere backstage, Kayla has caught up with Heath Miller. She asks him about the Rumble, and he says that he's not going to be too disappointed about losing tonight. He's been close to success before and he'll do it again, but he's on a comeback tour right now and he's going to finish. He's going to be bigger and better than ever. It's just a bump in the road for him. He's interrupted by Elijah Burke, who snatches the microphone from him. "Story time with the lifelong failure is over," he says. "Grab a pew and sit your ass down, because the Pope has a sermon to deliver." Tonight, the Pope came close to a title shot, and between Big Rick, Carrot Top and Fezzik, I've got screwed left, right and centre. The management of GPW, the fans in the arena, they all need to know that they have been blessed by my presence, and I won't be going away. He tries to interrupt again, and Pope pushes him to the ground. "I told you to sit your ass down." He looks back at the camera and says, "I will be the champion before the year is out, and you can take that as gospel," and he kicks Heath as he walks away. We're now backstage with a split screen as the security and company officials escort Madison Eagles and Tennille Dashwood towards the ring separately. And we go straight into that match as the fight continues. As soon as Tennille reaches the ring, they're back to brawling after a war that leads to a rapid exchange of holds. The referee is knocked on the ground. In the confusion, Madison catches Tennille with the hellbound and rolls out for a chair. After checking the referee is still out, Madison drags Tennille to her feet and hits the Heaven Sent onto the chair, and the referee stirs enough to slowly count the pin for a Madison Eagles victory. Tennille is still unconscious in the ring, and Madison isn't done, stomping on her and beating her down until officials return to drag her away. Backstage, Kayla is with Brandy Rhodes. She commiserates her on her loss tonight and asks how she's going to bounce back from it. She tells us that she's disappointed to have lost, and even more disappointed to see that a veteran like Lisa Marie Varon is such a sore loser that she'd interfere in a match that she'd already lost. She tells us that she's talked to Shane McMahon already and that she's been granted the match tomorrow night on the debut episode of Exposure on MTV with Lisa Marie Varon. She promises that while she might only be a Rhodes by marriage, she knows how to teach her opponent about hard times. Shane's in his office when Heath Miller storms in. He asks if Shane saw what Elijah Burke just did to him. Shane says he did. Heath demands a match with Elijah Burke on Exposure tomorrow night, and Shane's happy to grant it. Kayla has now got Priscilla Kelly and Elena Black with her. She asks if they've got a strategy for tonight's match, and they tell her they've got the advantage of having both been a part of successful tag teams in the past, which gives them the advantage to make Fatal Attraction the most dangerous team in the division. Kayla then asks if they're concerned that the winners of the match are going to have to face Daria and Valentina, the #1 contenders. They want to make it clear they had nothing to do with what happened last night, and that anyone smart would be looking at Soraya and her friends because they were right there. However, they admit that what happened does make their job easier tonight, and if they have to defend their titles against Daria and Valentina, they'll deal with that situation when the time comes. I went straight in with that women's tag team title ladder match as Lacey Lane and Casey Catanzaro team up against Shotzi Blackheart, Jamara Garrett, Courtney Stewart and Bea Priestley, and Priscilla Kelly and Elena Black. This is a very different match to the previous ladder match in that this one's a lot more technical, less weapons, more flying, more flash, more action. As the match draws to a close, we've got 3 ladders lined up under the belts with Lacey, Casey, Shotzi, Jamara, Courtney and Bea fighting between themselves as Fatal Attraction launch themselves into one of the ladders and they start dominoing to the ground with bodies tumbling everywhere. As the dust settles, Fatal Attraction is left in the ring to grab a ladder, they climb it, and they claim the belts, so Fatal Attraction are our Women's World Tag Team Champions. As Fatal Attraction celebrate on their way up the ramp, the other teams help each other to their feet and gather in the ring, looking helpless as they watch them leave. Suddenly, Shotzi, Jamara, Courtney and Bea are on the floor as Casey and Lacey attack them. The announcers are losing their minds as they berate them. Lacey told Casey this wasn't how they behaved yesterday, but it looks like she's changed her ways and she's just as on board with this as her partner. And with their opponents down, they leave the ring as announcers question why they did this. Backstage, Lisa Marie Varon is pacing the parking lot, nervously staring at her phone when Kayla approaches her. Kayla wants her reaction after the match earlier. She says she doesn't want to talk right now. She's busy. She just wants to get an Uber and go home, and tells Kayla to leave her alone. As she talks, a black SUV, the same one from last night, parks up in the lot. Sensing a story, Kayla grabs her cameraman and rushes over, trying to find out who's in the vehicle, but she's surprised to find it's just a driver. There's nobody else in the car. She apologizes for the sudden interruption and explains to viewers that everyone is a little on edge right now after the attack last night. We go back to the ring as the Lucha legends Samurai del Sol and Cinta de Oro, the former Lucha Dragons, take on the Lions of India in Dil Shashanki and Sarav Gurjar in a tag team match, and the two teams square off. The Luchadors put up a great fight, but they're ultimately unable to overcome the two giants and find themselves being defeated, and the Lions of India win the match in just shy of 10 minutes, as Samurai del Sol has had a very, very good performance in this match as well. We then get a highlight package of the qualifier matches and the Rumble from earlier to prepare for the world title match. Just a little preview video to get us going as we go into that title match. And it's Babatunde versus Shinsuke Nakamura versus Bishop Dyer and Adam Scherr. And it's a brutal, fatal four-way war as all four men are forced to change up their game plans. Dyer can't end it quickly, Scherr can't dominate anyone enough to hurt them, Shinsuke is preoccupied with trying to take shots at Dyer, and Babatunde just wants to get a second win of the night. Match is something of an epic, but it all comes to an end because Nakamura and Dyer are too focused on each other. Scherr has put Babatunde through the barrier on the outside and he's joined them in the ring. As Nakamura and Dyer take each other out, Scherr manages to drag each of them to their feet. In turn, heaving onto his shoulder in a pile to deliver a running power slam to both men. Dyer lands on top but rolls away, and Scherr covers Nakamura for the win. The winner and our first GPW Men's World Champion is Adam Scherr. He celebrates in the ring as announcers talk about how every man in the locker room should be terrified right now because this dangerous, angry monster of a man is now the world champion. We then go backstage where we find Shotzi and Jamara with Kayla. She's about to start the interview when Nixon Newell passes her on the way to the ring and laughs in their faces. Tell them to watch how real champions win titles. An argument breaks out and Kayla hurriedly throws to a video package of how we got here with the qualifiers. The package then plays, recapping how everyone qualified for the match and ends with footage of the attack on Shayna, Daria, and Valentina. Whilst the video has been playing, Kayla has managed to grab Shayna for an interview. Kayla tells Shayna that she saw what she thought was the SUV from last night in the parking lot, and Shayna thanks her for the warning. She says they might have got the jump on her last night, but they should feel free to buy a ticket to watch her win the title tonight so they can see up close what they have coming to them. We then get to our match, and it's a six-way elimination match for the main event as King Kota, Carissa Rivera, Nixon Newell, Saraya, Shayna Baszler, and Angelina Love compete to be our first ever Women's World Champion. Before the competitors make their way to the ring, the announcement explains the rules of the match. Only 2 women can be in the ring at any given time, and they have to tag in to be legal. Competitors will be eliminated via pinfall or submission until 1 woman remains to be crowned champion. As the match progresses, Carissa is eliminated first, being pinned by Saraya. Nixon is also next out as Saraya pins her as well, and the announcers put over that Saraya is on a roll tonight. Unfortunately, her luck runs out as King Kota manages to catch her with a GTK, and we are down to 3 left in the match. At this point, the announcers are pointing out that, once again, Angelina has barely been in the ring. They're calling her a coward, and she leaves Shayna to fight Kota. Kota and Shayna put on a bit of a clinic, but Shayna manages to grab the ace of spades, and King Kota is out of the match. The announcers are getting excited now because Angelina has no choice but to get in the ring. It's down to her and Shayna, and she's going to have to fight her if she wants to win the title. Shayna gets a sick grin on her face, and she knows she has this one won. The referee forces Angelina into the ring, but the second Shayna gets close, she begs off and backs out through the ropes again. Shayna slaps her, trying to goad her into the ring, and Angelina immediately clutches her face and starts screaming that her eye is hurt. The referee is checking on her as the crowd gets to their feet. It takes the cameraman a second to react, but there's a hooded, masked figure walking slowly down the aisle. The announcers are screaming at Shayna to turn around, and eventually she does. She locks eyes with the figure, and her face turns red with anger. She dives out of the ring, fists flying, and she and the hooded figure trade punches until the hood comes down. Angelina is still selling her injury as 5 more hooded figures jump the barriers and beat Shayna down, eventually rolling her into the ring. Angelina manages a miraculous recovery and makes the cover as all 6 of our hooded figures duck out of sight. The referee makes the count, after looking around to kind of work out what happens. And Angelina, without lifting a finger, is the GPW World Women's Champion. As Angelina celebrates like she actually won it by herself, the hooded figures appear again. The announcers question their motivation till one of them throws her a black hoodie as well. She laughs and beckons them into the ring. They line up in front of her, and as they face the hard camera, she takes the mask off the first figure. It's Lisa Marie Varon. They hug and they reveal the others one by one. Danielle Moinet, Katarina Waters, CJ Perry, Maria Kanellis, and Melina Perez. Security and officials come streaming down the ramp with Shane McMahon behind, and all 7 women hightail it through the crowd with security giving chase, and Shane stops to check on Shayna, and off that, we fade to black. So we can pick up post-match then or post-show for our meta sequence. There are a few pre- and post-show matches going on as well in the background. In terms of things that went well, went bad, and the overall rating of 40 is not too bad for the level of promotion we're at. Shane's opening promos done very well. In fact, everything involving Shane seems to have done reasonably well. Yeah, it looks like pretty much everything picked up whenever Shane got involved. The Tenille and Madison walking to the ring, I don't know why that's not done well. I mean, it was clearly just a backstage intro package. Maybe the game doesn't do those very well. Heath Slater's had a really good segment, 2 really good segments in there as well, so justify me putting him towards the top of the card. Main event wasn't awful. Also, the men's main event wasn't awful at 42. All things considered, Adam Scherr getting a 67, which I think is the highest rated segment of the night for things. I think it might have been. They didn't get higher than a 67. No, so I think he's got the highest rated segment of the night for his title celebration, which is nice to see. A 40 for our actual main event, which is not too bad, all things considered. Especially because I think there's a couple of people in there who maybe pulled that back a little bit, and we end above average for the show, and a couple of post-show matches, a bunch of pre-show matches. Again, I'm just trying people out just to see what they produce results-wise, so nothing too fancy there. We'll address the locker room, because why not? They've had a pretty good night here. It says that we can do 2 or 3 things. Let's grab Carl Fredericks and Oliver Carter, because they have done very well in that match. We are going to praise them both for a good performance, make a good speech. They both seem happy. No one's unhappy. Good. We did pick an injury to Doc Gallows, a strained latissimus dorsi. He can work through it. It's only going to keep him out for a week, which is fine. I wasn't necessarily intending to use him in the ring on television for the next episode anyway, so that's fine. Financially, we would have lost a pile of money, but we always do. I'm just, in fact, I'm very conscious after the last episode to make sure that's actually showing up on camera. There it is. That's good. It could be touch and go. So yeah, we've lost some money, but I expected that. And our popularity, the yellow means we have gained. Nothing's gone to a 1 yet, but we've gained. So that's good. We will start getting there. We're not going to hold a media scrum because we're not big enough, is pretty much how that works. So we will go back, we'll pull up the card again, and I will talk about exactly how and why we did everything, as it's taking a moment to figure its life out. Okay, so let's discuss the behind the scenes for First Rush. Unfortunately, I still can't figure out how to make it pop up a window on top of that on OBS. I don't know why, but let's just talk through the show as we go, and I'll explain why I was doing things as we get there. Because, you know, as I said, I wanted to be able to explain everything as best I can, why I do things the way I do things based on experience. So we open with that Shane McMahon promo. It's really just for the viewer at home, it's a catch up, really, a bit of a way to do a recap without having to just do a video package. You know, maybe some people heard the first show was really good. People really liked it. They told their friends tuned in, weren't fully caught up. So we explained that Fredericks and Carter were cleared to compete after last night. That Adam Scherr is in trouble because he just keeps beating people up. We explained that Daria and Valentina weren't that. The reason I had to do this, it worked out well for the story I'm trying to tell with them anyway. But the reason I did this was purely because in the way the game lets you book matches, you can't have a 5-way tag team match, so I had to take a team out to make that work in the game engine. And to do that, we just sidelined them and made them #1 contenders. We gave them a story for it, and it all worked out pretty well, I think. We then explained who's actually in that match. We explained that Priscilla and Elena are now called Fatal Attraction, and they will be doing that. That will be their name going forward. We also explained that Shayna will be competing, and that Shane, a bit of kind of foreshadowing where he said that he wants to make it clear that he will find out who was responsible for attacking those three on the previous show. And of course, he did find out, but it wasn't his investigation. They just revealed themselves at the end. And then he puts over that we've got 60 men and women who are going to compete in the Battle Royals. We get our first Battle Royal. Elephant in the room. I know that Brian Kendrick has been accused of some stuff. As I said in the last episode with Quack, I'm aware some people have been accused of some things. I don't know all the facts. I don't want to say benefit of the doubt. It's just a case of there aren't many big names who aren't signed anywhere. Brian Kendrick's from California, so he's going to get a local boy reaction anyway. He's not going to be a focus of the show. It was just a name to put in a battle royal to help boost the rating. Similarly, Austin Aries, he complained when I booked the match that he wasn't winning it because he thought he should have been. Frankly, after what happened in TNA, and if you don't know what happened in TNA, you're already on YouTube, you can check it out. I don't trust him to be a professional. So having him in a match where by the time he gets thrown over the top rope, if he chooses not to sell anything, no one's paying attention, works fine for me. Again, not necessarily someone I'm planning on bringing back. I decided to team up Shanky and Gurja. I like the idea of having this really big team from a business point of view, if this were real life as well. Having two big Indian guys go over is not bad for business. I like the idea of having Marco Stunt and Matt Heisner, of course, very similar characters from two different generations involved in that kind of finisher, being the guy that just gets tossed a long distance. Obviously, Matt Heisner, the former Spike Dudley, he's not going to be a regular for us. He was just kind of a novelty. I mean, Steve Lombardi was also in the match, the former Brooklyn Brawler. I just thought I'd chuck a couple of random surprises in there. Marco Stunt, I don't know what I'm going to do with him going forward. He's not on a full contract. He's just on an open appearance deal. I'm not the biggest fan of him. He just doesn't look like a wrestler. So I don't know what we'll do with him. Maybe he'll be back. Maybe he'll be my I'll try and turn him into a plucky underdog. Maybe I'll just forget he exists. It was an excuse to put those two guys together as a tag team and to get Samurai del Sol and Cinta de Oro reformed as the Lucha Dragons, or as we're calling them, the Lucha Legends. Then we had our final five, who were kind of important just for establishing some depth in the men's world title division. Rickon Stevens, who I can't remember what he was called in WWE, and I can't be bothered to look it up, but you guys all know in the comments, so remind me, because I'll forget to look it up again. He was an ECW champion at one stage, I seem to remember. He was a decent enough choice of what was available. Elijah Burke's a really good talent in terms of he can work and he can talk, and he kind of fills a role. As I recall this, it's just after we got the news in real life that Ron Killings had been released. I wish I'd known that before, because I would bring in Ron Killings to fill pretty much that same role, to be honest. I love Ron Killings. So, yeah, that's an interesting one. Amazing Red was in there just because I wanted someone who could sell and fly in there. He will be involved in around the sort of mid-card, but I don't know long-term what my plan is for him yet. Heath Miller, the former Heath Slater, I really like. I think the right promotion with the right booking, the right storytelling with him could really make him into a top star. I've always felt like he's such a good talent and he connects so well with the crowd. I'm never quite sure why no one has tried to build him up, because he could be a top guy somewhere. He's got the tools, he just doesn't seem to get the push. so he'll be in and around the picture somewhere. And then Babatunde coming out last, formerly Commander Aziz, was it? Big guy from NXT that I think had an AEW run as well. I think has some potential for the future. And then Babatunde going over, giving us a big babyface guy really to be in the main event picture is where we were with that. To try to make sure we're on track here. Did the interview with Kayla and Mike Quackenbush again, just padding, I guess, putting over that he's got experience and he's not afraid of Adam Scherr, which of course does come back later to bite him. Adam Scherr and Babatunde kind of sizing each other up as well was just really so we could get a size comparison for them. I think it's really nice to get that visual, especially of your older fans, the so-called smart fans. They want to see work rate, but if you're watching this and you're 6-7 years old, you just see two big monster guys trying to looking each other up and down. It's the same thing we had as all wrestling fans when we were a kid. It's just a chance to see the two big guys squaring off. We get the match with Scherr and Quackenbush again, continuing that thing where Adam Scherr's just destroying guys and injuring them. And got Kayla interviewing Babatunde, and just setting up the match, just saying, I'm not going to be bullied. I will take you down. Shinsuke and Bishop, I don't know what went wrong on here with the booking. It's fine. We'll correct it in the script. Going to a draw, double counter again. I struggle because Shinsuke Nakamura is the biggest name in the company, but I've got plans for Bishop Dyer that I needed him to be in that title match as well. This was kind of a way of cheesing it, I guess, to make that happen. And I think it worked out. I don't think it was too egregious in the grand scheme of things. I hate giving non-finishes on shows, on pay-per-view events. I hate when there's non-finishes on pay-per-view events, unless it's coming back to something. Obviously, we did wrap that up a little bit later, so that's fine. Quack gets into an ambulance. We use that to cement Carl Fredericks' concern, because he's been through that, and that he and Carter have got some kind of understanding they're working together. We then went to the women's battle royal. This is the square go there, because it's really hard. For some reason, the game won't let me book it as a Royal Rumble, so I've just had to pick the nearest, and I forgot to create, or it wouldn't let me use the first impressions Rumble. I don't know. I don't understand how that works, but it wouldn't let me use it again. Either way, we'll make that work. It's all window dressing for the match engine. Madison Eagles was someone I would make a really big deal of, because she's fantastic in real life. I genuinely think she's a fantastic talent, someone that you can build the division around, and just a great worker, a really great worker. And I want to really highlight that by having her come to the ring first, stare down the aisle, dare people to come and fight her, putting them out in a couple of minutes, but then building up to having someone like Tennille Dashwood who can come out and actually is on her level and fight her. And we've hinted at some kind of previous that we'll build on with those two. ODB coming out as well. Obviously, ODB never a pushover. Holly Dead, a really good person for the division as well to be in there as well. A lot of the people here I think are really good, and some people who didn't even get name checked in here are people like Chili and Melissa, Cherry Bomb, who was Ali in TNA, and she was it the Bunny in AEW. We've got Brooke Adams, the former Brooke Tessmacher, was in the match as well. Big Swole was in there just to add some flavor. Celeste Bonin, who was her WWE name was escaping. There's a lot of recognizable people in there. Marty Bell as well in this match, just to add some spice to things. Why to specifically have Wesna Busic put on? I think Wesna Busic is I know she's towards the end of her career now, but Wesna Busic is such a monster on the European women's scene that I wanted to give her a bit of a spotlight. Having Ivelisse for less, I'm sure Guerrero is playing into something bigger down the line. They are on the same page, but we'll explain that in detail down the line. We've then got Angelina, Brandy, and Allysin Kay as three of the final four. Allysin Kay, I kind of just had to pick someone to do it, and she was my best bet. It was a I could have picked one of 6. It wasn't a deliberate choice to have her be there. And having Victoria, Lisa Marie Varon coming out as well, she's going to be very important going forward as things go as well. Having her involved in this main event is going to be important. Having Brandy Rhodes go to the end, it was kind of she's the biggest baby face in that division to an extent that I've got. So that's why she is in there to be the runner-up in the match. I do think we can do something good with her. She is quite popular. She's not the worst worker I've ever seen. Certainly not necessarily the greatest, but she's good enough to do what we need her to do. And we just kind of set up with this that Angelina wins the match by doing nothing and having other people do it for her. Of course, if you're watching to this stage in the episode, you know what happens later. Bit of foreshadowing as well. The President Shane thing here as well is essentially, again, just recapping. Anyone who joins the show late knows what's going on. It progresses a few stories as well. We've got going on, shows that he is taking charge of the situation. Again, reiterating he doesn't like the chaotic locker room. That's what he's trying to avoid. And that he wants to give the fans a match, so that's what he's done. A little bit of a bait and switch, cancelling the triple threat to make the fatal 4-way. But, I think it was worth it for what we were trying to do here. We then have Kayla with Big Rick as well. He's, again, just putting him over as a guy who maybe a little bit vengeful, a little bit embarrassed, trying to set something up for the future with Babatunde as well, just to give them a place to go. I think that will produce some good matches. I think that it will help Babatunde develop as well, because he's not quite ready yet, so we just want to give him some matches and some feuds where he can start to build himself up, having established himself with the Battle Royal. Again, reinforcing the Lions of India and the Lucha Legends storyline with pulling that from the Rumble match and turning it into something on the card. I kind of had to do this as well. If we look at the card here, what was starting to happen was it felt like I had 2 Rumbles, 2 ladder matches, 2 multi-person title matches, a couple of singles matches thrown in there. I just wanted to add something in there to change the pace up a little bit, just to re-flavor things. So this is how that ended up on the card. I had something I could pull out of the Rumble to turn into a match, and that's sort of how we got to where we got to. We then have Tennille and Madison fighting again backstage. That gets turned to, the same reason, just buffering between the ladder matches, really. I'm getting a little bit of a lighter moment with ODB in there, just to change the mood, just ever so slightly. We then go straight to the men's ladder match. I obviously had already set up 2 of the teams in here. Cedric and Fabian won't be a team going forward. This is sort of the end of their thing. The Good Brothers and the Legion of Pain being in there felt like it was, as I said, I wanted to just bulk up the division a little bit. I wanted to add some recognizable tag teams into the division, just to add this element of people, the fans will recognize as being tag teams, but also a bit of peril there. Carter and Fredericks, I felt like were the natural winners. They got the comeback story for Carl Fredericks in there from his attack last night. They're also the only babyface team in the match. They had to go over, otherwise it would have just been a bit silly. But we've established some stuff. We've given a slightly unpredictable team the titles, and I think they'll actually be a really good team. I'm going to build towards something with them as well long term. I think they are 2 of the people that I can develop first off as a team and then really turning to something down the line. We then got an interview with Heath that gets interrupted by Elijah Burke, and then those guys start to argue as well, or start something. I say they start something. Elijah starts something with Heath that's just to sort of pay off for tomorrow. So we've got matches announced for the TV show, essentially. Gave me a chance to kind of get both characters over as well a little bit, show where they are. Then we did the split screen that did badly, which led into the match, which turned out really well, actually. A 36 for that match, I think, is a really good rating, considering how little setup it had. yeah, just a good match between two people who know each other. The start of things to come. As I said, we will slowly reveal what these guys' problem actually is as we continue. We have that post-match beatdown as well, just to make sure it's really established that Madison is the heel in this storyline, because Tenille has played a heel a lot. She's a good babyface, I always feel, but she has played a heel a lot in her career. We had an interview with Brandy just to establish her character a bit more, and again set up another match for tomorrow night. Shane and Heath has done really well in the game as well, which I really like. For that Fatal Attraction interview, again, we're just putting over these guys as a team, what their thinking is going into it. We're really just kind of establishing them as a cohesive unit with a shared goal. They really want to distance themselves from what's going on with Daria and Valentina. So we're introducing that little bit of these guys are willing to make sure they distance themselves from threats as best they can, while also, obviously, with what happens later on the show, setting up that title defense for them when they win the match, which of course they then immediately go on and do. They were the natural choice here. I guess the big headline coming out of this is having Lacey and Casey as heels rather than being the babyface team they've been for a while. I just think they're both really talented performers, but I always felt like their gimmicks were a little bit bland, and they're a little bit kind of white meat, old-fashioned baby faces without a lot of personality to them. And I felt like I could do something with that by making them the heels in the division. So we're going to try that out and see how that pays off. I think it'll work out really well, but we'll see how that goes going forward. And if not, we can always switch them back or split them up down the line. We'll work that out as we get there. We then go back to the parking lot where we have Lisa Marie doing her thing, staring at her phone, which obviously she plays off as, I was just waiting for an Uber, and she doesn't want to talk to Kayla. And at that moment, just by coincidence, the SUV turns up with no one in it. Obviously, again, a little bit of casual foreshadowing. Let me know in the comments if you knew what was happening here, by the way. If you saw this coming, let me know, saw what happened later on coming while I did this, let me know in the comments. I'd love to know if it was too predictable or not, because I thought I'd set it up just right, but I'm never entirely sure. Obviously, she's looking at her phone because she is waiting to get word from the others that they're all ready for later on. We get our Lucha Legends and the Lions of India match. I probably need a better name for the Lucha Legends. I just haven't figured out what that's going to be. Again, just putting over the Lions of India, setting up what will be a mini feud between the two. Nothing long term, because I want to see what we can do with this division. I just needed to add teams to the division. These two seem like natural choices. We've set them up with a match. We've spaced out our other matches. Hopefully that's worked out. We have then got into the men's world title match where Adam Scherr wins the world title from Daya Nakamura and Baba Tunde. Crucially in this match, Nakamura had to be in the main event because I didn't want any of the three to take a loss yet, which some of you have probably figured out from watching what I've been doing or reading all the on-screen text. I don't want any of those three to take a loss yet. Shinsuke can survive a loss and still bounce back, so I think that sort of explains why he was in there to lose. I like the image mentally of Adam Scherr really showing off his power by picking up Daya and Nakamura and dropping them both with one running power slam, really cementing that this guy's a big, hefty beast of a man. He's a threat. Taking Baba Tunde out with him being put through a barrier as well just kind of sums up, like, you're not gonna drop him with a DDT and leave on the outside. You've got to, like, put him through something to take him out of the picture. We then get a few more things just setting up future events. Obviously, we're already been working on setting up Shotzi and Nixon having a proper feud. We've recapped what happened with Shayna, Daria, and Valentina. Shayna has her interview where she sets up all her other stuff for the main event tonight, which is really nice to see. And then we have Angelina again winning a title with help from her friends without doing any real work. We've revealed who our 6 women well, 7 women, sorry, who were involved in the attack the previous night, and we have revealed them as being Andrea Love, Lisa Marie Varon, Daniel Moynier, who of course was Summer Rae, Katrina Waters, who was Katie Lee in WWE, she was Winter in TNA, or she was Nikita before that on the UK indie scene. CJ Perry, of course, the former Lana, and Maria Kanellis and Melina Perez, of course, have always used their real names in the ring anyway, so they're all there. There is a reason for that. I will explain that on the exposure show that's coming out. I'm not going to give away too many spoilers, and I know some people in the comments say, oh, there's too many ex-WWE guys. I get it. I explained in the comments last time what I'm trying to do with that. These guys are here for a purpose, and it will build the rest of the division. They are there to essentially be scaffolding to build the rest of the division around. It will make sense, and it won't be as egregious as you think it will be if I play this right. And that sort of brings us to where we are, and again, more me trying out bodies just to see how they do in this one. So that's been where we've been at. Apparently the War Raiders have been disbanded. That's good. In terms of anything else happening in the world, Cody Rhodes has a new thing going on with Roman Reigns. That's something for me to keep an eye on, because that's going to be interesting. The Tennessee Danny Davis has passed away. That's sad news. What a legend is Danny Davis. And yeah, we are Yoshi Tatsu as well. Is that Yoshi Tatsu? No, it's not. My Japanese wrestling knowledge, not great. But a bunch of people retiring, as will happen. The Alpha Academy is disbanded as well. There you go. Big things happening all over. But I'm going to wrap up the episode there. We will be back, as I said, with TV for the with the next episode. Apologies, the episodes aren't coming out in a rapid clip, by the way. I'm currently in the process of having to move house, and the main series on the channel is still my Football Manager stuff. I'm just pre-recording literally until the end of August with that, so bear with me. I'm just getting it out of the way, getting that all edited, uploaded, so I can focus on getting this all recorded, edited, and uploaded, so that I can move house without having too much drama. So that is that. But for now, thanks for watching. I have, as always, been Chasing Lane. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the show, any questions you have, anything you'd like me to explain. As I've said before, I've done this for a living. I've actually been a booker in real life. I can explain most things and my logic with a lot of things and why and how I'm doing things. So do let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that good stuff. And until next time, I've been Chasing Laney. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Have a good one.